first and final word. With Nelson Jordan, I'm Chris Nelson. Today, we are doing our AFC West Division Preview. We will begin with the 3-time defending AFC champion and 9-time defending AFC West Division champion, Kansas City Chiefs. Nelson, you have the first word.
Hey, Chris. What up, Chiefs Kingdom? You guys have been the stellar pillar franchise now for like the last several years. It's almost a lock that you guys are going to be the Super Bowl essentially every single year. And now with a lot of rumors per se, will Kelsey, will this be his last year? And we know that he's talked about it. Will this possibly be, Andy Reid also kind of posting himself up in an exit, year or maybe two down the road. So, you know what, Chiefs Kingdom, regardless, I think you guys are in good hands just because you guys got Patrick Mahomes, who I arguably think he's the best quarterback in the league when he's on the field. He's got the talent to be that, but that's my opinion. We know Chris from his expression that he's disagreeing with that, so we'll get later down the road. But Mahomes is Mahomes, and until somebody can knock him off, I can't believe I'm mimicking this, but until somebody can knock him off his mountain, he's still the king of the mountain. Everyone chases him, all the quarterbacks chase him, but currently he's still king of the NFL. There was no major coaching changes, Kansas City, for you guys. You guys were 15-2 last year, first in the AFC West. You guys were in a lot of close games, and I'm going to focus on that later down in my segment. You guys did lose in the Super Bowl to Philadelphia, and I don't want to remind you guys too much about that because you guys got a shellacking to the Eagles. I mean, everybody thought that Kansas City was going to put up a bigger fight than what we expected, but you guys got shellacked, and it didn't seem like you guys were even focused or let alone in tune to the game until maybe halfway through the third quarter, and into the fourth, as soon as Mahomes just started throwing deep passes, which ultimately, in my opinion, was the weakness of the Philadelphia Eagles. And you guys exposed them too late, but ultimately your O-line got exposed all often throughout the whole entire game. Mahomes got his butt to the turf every single snap. It seemed like he couldn't scramble. Your tackles were just, getting chewed up by, both the defensive and pass rushers for the Eagles. But again, I don't want to talk too much about it just because you guys did get to the Super Bowl, and that's still something to be said worth regardless. You guys did have some pieces being changed back and forth, whether it was additions or not. You guys were able to add Jalen Moore, left tackle from San Francisco. He's going to essentially be a backup to who you guys drafted. But, you guys can now have the flexibility of now, well, do you guys want to essentially put Josh Simmons out at the right tackle position? So you guys basically have this interchangeability where you guys now kind of, in a sense, have your tackles now solidified per se, right? But do you have depth behind it? That's my question for you guys. You guys were able to retain Kristen Fulton. You guys signed Elijah Mitchell, who I think is a good running back when healthy out of San Francisco. And then you also signed Trey Smith, the best guard in football, to the highest contract in football. So you guys were able to sign him. You guys did lose Joe Tooney. I think he was a viable piece in your offense, especially your offensive line. You guys did lose Justin Reed, Justin Watson, Omenihu, Juju Smith-Schuster, P. Ryan, and Hopkins. All were veteran players, if not depth pieces. You guys did draft Josh Simmons out of Ohio State, Omar Norman, Lott, defensive tackle of Tennessee, and Ashton Galati, defense end out of Louisville. Listen, we don't have much to say about your offense. I think the glaring weakness of your offense last year, even though the rankings could say that you guys were in the bottom half, is that you didn't have a healthy running back room. You didn't have a healthy offensive line, and you didn't have your premier, what normal would be, wide receiver corps as well. So as much as I want to do kind of down you guys on your offensive rankings, I still think with a healthy Isaiah Pacheco, a healthy Rashee Rice, a Travis Kelce into his last year, we know what he can perform and put out there. Will he perform the best? No. But he can still produce and still score touchdowns and still be a red zone threat when your guys down in the red zone. And you do have Xavier Worthy, who you guys did actually draft the year before. He's a speed burner. We know what he can do with the ball in his hands. And you guys also have another receiver as well. And correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, he was from Arizona.
Rashee Rice, if he's back.
No.
You're talking about Marquise Hollywood Brown, who missed
there we go.
the
Thank
game
you.
last season. Fully healthy all season now.
Yeah.
Let's see what he can do.
So he's also
speed,
a good piece. Yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't focus on too much Kansas City on your down year last year with your offense. I think it's going to pertain how healthy can you guys be this year and how really good can your offensive line mesh together going into this year. Because you guys did lose a couple of key pieces, but you guys are bringing in some new faces. And at the same token, what you guys were so good for so many years, which was why Kansas City, why you guys were so dominant, was because you had one of the better offensive lines in the NFL, right? To protect Mahomes and to give him all day to throw those bazookas that he obviously has, right? Your defense was not as good as it used to be. I don't know if it's just the type of players you guys have, if Spagnuolo is kind of losing touch with his scheme, but your defense was not as good. Now your defensive against the run was very good, but your pass was definitely notable last year. You guys could not stop a nosebleed even on long third downs, second third downs. Your corners were getting burnt. Your safeties were out of position. And even though you guys have the best defensive tackle in or defensive end because he's so versatile, and Chris Jones, you guys were still not getting, I think, enough pressure even on the quarterbacks, opposing quarterbacks, because your next best player on that line would have been George Karlaftis, but George Karlaftis is not per se the cream of the crop either. He's a good player. Now, at the secondary level, all you do have is Trent McDuffie now, and you have a Nick Bolton. But something has to change with this defense in order for you guys to be better than what you guys were last year, because you guys were in a lot of close games, as I did say last year. We saw those games, and one of our videos, me and Chris were referencing how Taylor Britt was able to pick off Mahomes in a crazy interception, but you guys somehow beat them at the last second with a field goal. How many of these games, because we saw you frantically, I think 8 or 10 games where you guys had won these close games, can you guys keep up that same turnout this year? I don't know. And if we really look at your schedule, Kansas City, your schedule is not for any say reason whatsoever favorable. But Chris, what's your take on these Chiefs? Because I personally think I'm leaning in the direction there could be a setback with these Chiefs going into this year. I don't see how everyone is thinking that the Chiefs could arguably be the best team in the AFC. I don't see it, how some folks might see that.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing about the Chiefs when we begin to discuss them. For whatever it's worth, the Chiefs played 20 games last season, including the playoffs, and 12 of them were one-possession games, to tie into your point and kind of answer a question that you had. So that's actually only one fewer than what the Washington Commanders had, who were known as the Cardiac Commanders. So that is an interesting stat, but we noticed that with the Chiefs last year. The AFC Championship immediately stands out. The blocked field goal in Denver, of course. You mentioned some of the others, and there's plenty more. There was some controversy against Atlanta as well, so on and so forth. I think you and I are, for the most part, on the same page with the Chiefs, except for the Patrick Mahomes hype, which I'll come to in a moment here. But first of all, let's give the Chiefs credit. For the past 7 seasons, that has been one of the great dynasties we've ever seen. I mean, what they have done is amazing, and if they are to get back to the AFC Championship this year, which will be for an 8th straight season, they would actually tie the Patriots record, who went to 8 straight from 2011 to 2018. The final of those years they played in Kansas City, and the Chiefs never got the ball in overtime, famously, or who knows what that would look like now. The only 2 times they've lost in the AFC Championship during that stretch have been in overtime. And they may have been the better team in both instances and didn't get the ball in one, and then probably Patrick Mahomes decided to beat them himself. And the other conversation for another day.
Right.
To go to 3 straight Super Bowls is remarkable as well. If they actually go to a 4th straight this year, which I don't think is out of the realm of the question on either of these fronts, I don't think they're good enough to win the Super Bowl. I think we saw that last year. I don't think this roster, this staff, or anything along those lines is that much better, and I think there's other teams in the league that are in position to be able to beat them the way the Eagles did. But if they do get to a 4th straight Super Bowl, they'll match the early 90s Bills for the most consecutive AFC Championships and Super Bowl appearances. That's how good the Chiefs have been. And again, they really could have very easily gotten to 7 straight Super Bowls at this point in time. But the difference is what happened in the Super Bowl last year. Like you said it, they got smashed. It looked like this may be a changing of the guard. They didn't look like the same team. I understand 4 years earlier they lost the Super Bowl, and it was a very similar game where they couldn't withstand the pressure. Patrick Mahomes was running for his life, and the defense wasn't as good as what we're used to seeing. The difference was in that game they were without their Pro Bowl left tackle and their All-Pro right tackle. They're playing in the opposing team's home stadium with a limited crowd due to COVID. And so the circumstances were very unique, and they were put in a more difficult position. They then changed the tackles and addressed that. Last year, they were missing Rashee Rice, but with all due respect to Rashee Rice, I don't think he's accounting for, I believe they lost by 18, but the game wasn't even that close. So the reality is, I don't think he's going out and accounting for more than a few touchdowns single-handedly. Not that he would score all those, but making that much of a difference in the game. I mean, the Eagles were that much of a better team. It is interesting now, will Rashee Rice be back for the start of the season? How many games will he play this year, and how healthy will he be, and will he be the same guy he was before the injury? Are we going to see the best version of Hollywood Brown that we've seen in the past? Can Xavier Worthy take that next step? Travis Kelce is still a very good tight end, but it is clear that he's past his peak prime, which was as good a prime as we've ever seen from a tight end, so that's an extremely high standard, but he has not been as good the past couple of years, particularly last year, as what he was. He was still very good. Don't misunderstand me here. I will repeat that. But is he regressing as he gets older, which is going to happen at some point? So that's going to be a key component to see how that goes and what we see out of him. These are the factors that are going to determine how well Patrick Mahomes can play. You mentioned it. They lost Joe Thuney, who's the best guard in the league, by the way, not Trey Smith. We're going to talk about Quinn Miners in a moment here in a couple teams. That's the best right guard in the league. And Chris Lindstrom in Atlanta is the second best right guard in the league. And he's been very good for the past couple or few years now. So,
Well, the guards,
but
it's
I think those
amazing.
are the best.
It's amazing the offensive linemen are getting a lot of love because normally they don't. They get forgotten about sometimes, right?
Yeah, John Madden used to give him love. I know he was a pretty offensive lineman, the big uglies, right? So
The
let's
big uglies, exactly.
real football fans appreciate those offensive linemen, all right? They make the difference. Football games are won and lost in the trenches. You talked a lot about the Chiefs' offensive line. I'm in agreement with you. It's a big component. I do want to mention as well Isaiah Pacheco. He came back from the injury, his broken leg, right? That he came back from
Yeah,
last season, and he didn't look
he
anywhere
was
near
not the
the same.
same.
So now he gets a full off season to fully recover and get more reps, and maybe he can get back to that level. But look, you've got Isaiah Pacheco, who was a really good power running back for them, and big difference.
He was a man possessed when running the
Yeah.
ball.
Rasheed
Seriously.
Rice, his rookie season 2 years ago, and at the beginning of last season before the injury, which was completely Patrick Mahomes' fault, it was one of the worst plays I've ever seen by a quarterback in my life.
That's
It was. He
you're not
completely
wrong. You're not
overthrew
wrong.
him for the
You're not wrong.
interception, and then he dove right into him and knocked him out for the season. I mean, blame yourself, Patrick Mahomes. So I'll come back to Patrick Mahomes in a moment here. Those guys are coming back from, to some extent, I know Isaiah Pacheco already came back, serious injuries. We don't know that they're going to be the same. And Rasheed Rice, he looks really good, like he was on the rise beginning of last year in his rookie season.
Yeah, he had a good year.
And Marquise Hollywood Brown has been hurt throughout his career. He missed the beginning of last season, most of the season. So I get it. Again, full off season now. Let's see what that does for him. That trio of receivers potentially looks better with Rasheed Rice, Hollywood Brown, and
Right.
Xavier Worthy. That's a good trio potentially if Xavier Worthy can take that next step in year two, and that would allow Patrick Mahomes to be better, especially if Isaiah Pacheco is
Right.
what he was a couple of years ago, or even last year before the injury. But you mentioned it. They lost Joe Thuney. That offensive line isn't great. The left side of the offensive line, you have two new full-time starters. I know their left guard was starting at the end of the year in the playoffs while Joe Thuney was playing left tackle, but you have a new starting left tackle, as you mentioned. And at right tackle, Jawan Taylor, why do they keep this guy? Why don't they replace him? You kind of touched on it. You think they will. The guy leads the league in penalties every year by far. All he does is hold. He's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you're putting him out there starting in what's supposed to be one of the best offenses in the league. I mean, Andy Reid is a mad genius to this day. Andy Reid deserves credit. I think for 20 years during his Philadelphia career and his first 6 seasons in Kansas City, we probably talked about Andy Reid as maybe the greatest coach to never win a championship. Now we're maybe talking about him as a top 10 greatest coach of all time. Not just a top 10 greatest coach to never win a championship, but a top 10 coach, period, in the history of the game of football. I mean, he is amazing. And Steve Spagnuolo, look, that defense wasn't as good as 2 years ago, but 2 years ago they were exceptional. I mean, that was an all-time great defense.
Oh, absolutely.
And so it made sense for them to take even a little step back. I mean, the job he has done, look, he was not a good head coach, but as a defense coordinator with his time in New York with the Giants and with the Chiefs, he's been as good a defense coordinator we've ever seen.
Excellent. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can put him up there with some names like Dick LeBeau, obviously not the player Dick LeBeau was prior to that, but seriously, he's an exceptional defense coordinator. Patrick Mahomes last year did not have a great season. He had a good season. He always does. For the past couple of years, it's felt like he's regressed each year from where he was a few years ago. It's felt like he's gone down a little bit each year. Throughout his career, even going back to when he was in college, the big problem with him, at Texas Tech and in the NFL, the Chiefs, has always been he's inaccurate. He will throw some of the most accurate passes you've ever seen in your life and just squeeze that through a tiny
Yeah.
little window. It's amazing. But then he constantly misses open receivers and badly, and a lot of times it results in bad interceptions. He throws too many interceptions at this point in time, and his decision making isn't always good. He sits in the pocket and holds the ball too long. He wants to improvise and scramble around, try to make the big play, and oftentimes it results in an incomplete pass or worse. It results in disaster sometimes. And he's always been this way. He's not going to change. It's just frustrating watching game has been throughout his career to see him miss passes. And he's so much more talented than Alex Smith. But I will say Alex Smith did not miss many throws. He was accurate. Not that
He was a dink and dunk quarterback. He was.
Yeah, that's fair. He did throw the ball down the field a little bit. But I'm just pointing it out that watching Mahomes play throughout his career, that has been maddening. That he misses so many open receivers so badly so often. You can find it multiple times in every game. You can.
Well, I got a nugget for you. I mean, yeah, he didn't have such a good year last year, but I think what we saw too, especially out of some of his weapons that per se he was accustomed to when he came into the league versus what he has now. A lot of his weapons now, I don't want to say that they don't have speed. They do have speed. The problem with some of these weapons is they're not getting separation like what he was accustomed to. When you had Travis Kelce in his prime, he was always separating from the linebackers when it was on an in-cut route, a drag route, a simple, curl route, always a method of separation. That's why you would always see Mahomes just throwing on a dart, and it was like, man, this guy never misses. But now for like the last couple of years, some of these players that they've had, now granted, they're not Tyreek Hill. I said they're not, Kelsey of his prime. They're not Mecole Hardman. They're not any of these guys.
But Hardman wasn't very good anyway.
Well, he was a down the field, give him a 40-yard bomb.
But
Yeah, he was a
they
fast guy.
still have him. Xavier Worthy's the guy they're counting on for the speed. I mean, he still has the record for the 40-yard dash at the combine, but fastest time. Right? Or did someone break it this year?
Yeah, the only thing that I'm worried about with Xavier Worthy is that he needs to just improve his route running. That's my only
He's more
biggest
than
beef.
just a burner. I mean, you're only going to beat the defense badly so often.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. I think they need to this year, and as long as they stay healthy and they improve, and if they can be better at their route running, because we know that, well, when you have a Rashee Rice who is kind of well-rounded, right? He doesn't have per se elite speed, but what he's good for is getting the ball in his hands and able to break open in the field. Yeah, exactly. Hollywood Brown, when he came from the Arizona Cardinals, people might have forgotten. He was in a very good offense at that time, but he was an over the middle possession receiver with his speed. Even though he's more of a lighter body, he likes to be able to catch the ball over the middle. He likes to be able to run those routes, turn on a dime, and essentially split two defenders. That's who he is. So they have the components. It's just a matter of they just need to be able to be better with Mahomes this year than they have per se in recent memory. Because that's what Mahomes relies on. Mahomes can create throws that make you blow your mind. Like, how the heck did this guy just throw a pass like this? Underhand. How did he just shovel it? Like, all the creativity that he has. But he's also a quarterback that also likes to throw on rhythm, on time, especially on these timing routes. That's what he's also known for.
I don't agree with that.
Well, that's what I've seen in past season.
He improvises. That's what he does.
Yes, he likes to improvise. But if the Kansas City offense is going to improve, there needs to be some sort of less of improvise, especially with an offensive line that is highly questioned. So what I'm saying is,
I agree. I want to come back to the offensive line, but I agree with the point you're making right now. Patrick Mahomes needs to be more of a guy who drops back and gets the ball quickly. Not all the time. Sometimes you can't because no one's open, and then you improvise. But he wants to improvise every play. And sometimes it's not the right play because someone is open right away.
And when he's trying to do that all the time, and I'll finish your point to get back to you, and I apologize, is when he tried to do that all the time, we saw that because that was key in the Philadelphia game. He tried to improvise in the pocket, and he was a deer in headlights because literally everyone was on top of him, and he's like, I got nowhere to go. Instead of just literally, exactly. But yeah, go back to what you were saying.
When he did have opportunities in that game, he missed. I mean, I can remember Travis Kelce coming wide open over the middle for just a quick 5, 6, 7 yard catch. I mean, maybe it's only 4 or 5 yards, 3 yards, something like that, and he threw it at his feet. I mean, he was like right in front of him, and he threw it at his feet. They're supposed to have this great chemistry. It was awful, and that wasn't the only throw he missed. It was the only time he missed a throw to Travis Kelce. So a lot of it is on him. And look, talking about the offensive line to come back to that and finish up with it, the tackles are big question marks. The left guard is a big question mark now. But they have the best center in the league. I mean, Jason Kelsey retired and
Man,
opened that gap, and Creed Humphrey is the best center in the league. He's outstanding.
100%,
Trey
100%.
Smith, I disagreed with you on where you rank him as the best right guard in the league heavily, but he is a really good right guard. I agree with you on that. And he might
Okay,
be ascending. And
fair
that's
enough.
why they paid him now.
Fair enough.
So they do have a couple pieces there to be able to be successful. I mean, Isaiah Pacheco can run behind those guys, and then they can have a little bit of time to throw the ball. And Patrick Mahomes, we know he's good. I'm not taking that away from him. He is a good quarterback. He is spectacular to watch. He makes unbelievable plays. We know what he's done. But we're talking about for this season right now where he's at and what we've seen from him. I'm not convinced, and this is a separate point, but I will mention it briefly. It's worth noting guys like Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, among others, have played for multiple offensive coordinators and in multiple offenses in their career and thrived in each instance. Patrick Mahomes has had the comfort of playing in a Cliff Kingsbury offense in college, which was very beneficial to him, and playing in that Andy Reid offense in the NFL, and we know how beneficial that is to quarterbacks. So
Hmm.
there's been comfort for him. So we don't know how much of it is all about his ability and how much of it is the offense he's in. And we're never going to blame a guy for his situation. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, I think the conversation between Patrick Mahomes being as good as you're seeing him as and as good as he really is, we need to find somewhere in the middle of where the offense is and what his actual ability is. And I
I
think
can
the
agree with
talent,
that.
I think the
I can
talent
agree
is
with that.
there. It's the execution sometimes that I question. And defensively, look, I'm in agreement with you. Chris Jones is special. He's a game wrecker. He's a matchup nightmare. He gets to go out and pick who he wants to line up against each snap, which is why, as you mentioned, he lines up all over and who he can dominate. What a terrifying thought for an offensive lineman. Please don't pick me. Please don't pick me.
And if he doesn't become a first ballot Hall of Famer, those guys, I don't know what they're eating, what they're smoking, because he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
And with
Chris
Aaron
Jones, when
Donald
he
retired, it opened that door for to be for the new best tackle in the league, and he's definitely in that conversation.
absolutely.
If he's not that, Cam Hayward might be up there as well. But I mean, he's as good as there is. He has been for years outside of Aaron Donald, to be fair. And then Trent McDuffie, I wanted to elaborate on a little bit more because great cornerback, but 2 years ago he was the best slot cornerback in the league, so they moved him outside. Kind of the opposite of what the Ravens did with Marlon Humphrey, and he had a great season on the outside as a cornerback. I mean, he is
Hmm.
truly great and coverage. So great piece for them there. Look, I think the Chiefs will have a really good offense no matter what. Andy Reid is the coach. They have Patrick Mahomes. They have Travis Kelsey. You mentioned the trio of receivers. We'll see what we get out of Isaiah Pacheco. You have Creed Humphrey. You have Trey Smith. They're going to be a really good offense. The defense is going to be good, if not really good. You have Chris Jones. You have Trent McDuffie. Steve Spagnuolo's defensive coordinator. You mentioned some of the other good players they had. The Chiefs just look like a team that's set to potentially regress, not just because they lost Joe Tooney or what we saw in the Super Bowl, but a combination of factors, all the close games they've won. It just feels like, not to mention teams like Baltimore and Buffalo getting better potentially, it just feels like they can get to a Super Bowl, yes, but I don't think they can win it. And they can get to an AFC championship for sure, but they might actually lose it this year. I mean, they've won a lot of close AFC championships. So I don't necessarily know that we're talking about them losing the divisional playoff round, but I don't know that we're talking about them going back to the Super Bowl either. You have the final word on the Chiefs.
Well, so I'm going to be the guy that's going to step on a pedestal. So you're definitely assuming that we're both thinking that they're going to make it to the playoffs. Now, granted, they have the capability of doing that. I have a feeling you have them in the playoff bracket potentially.
I have them winning the division and going to an eighth straight AFC championship.
Well, damn! I didn't want you to open up the can of worms just then. So if you want me to, I can.
I'm so
We
sorry.
we we could talk about that later. We could talk about that later. But no. Here's my take on these Chiefs. I think they're gonna have a really tough challenge this year on like no other. There's gonna be a lot of teams that not only are gonna be fighting for their essentially not just playoff lives, but these teams are backs against the wall. They're gonna be essentially like, hey, if we don't perform this year, then there's serious questions going into next year. And it's not to say that that's not a good thing, because you're gonna get some teams that are gonna come out swinging and they might miss. But when you're looking at their schedule, LA first game, Philly second game, Baltimore game 4, Detroit game 6, Washington game 8, Buffalo game 9, 11 Denver, 14 Houston, Denver 17. I mean, that's well, and I forgot to mention LA too, again in week 15. And I'm discounting Las Vegas, and I think Las Vegas could really be better this year than what they were
Hold
last
that
year.
thought. We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. But their schedule, as much as there might be cupcakes every now and then, this is going to be a fight for the Chiefs because I listen. As much as I really want to back up Mahomes because I said he's the best quarterback in the league, that offensive line, their tackles, I really got to see it to be proven otherwise. They have solidified that offensive line. Otherwise, they got a lot of competition in here with some decent defenses that will get after them. And and
But
and keep
Nelson,
in mind,
sorry, I didn't
Max
mean to cut you off, but
Crosby.
that's the case every year. When you're that great, that's the case every year, and they always
I
seem to
mean,
win just those
listen,
games.
they're gonna be the hunted, but I also don't think that they're going to be the same team that's going to win all these close games because I think their defense is gonna not live up to the hype, and I am sorry. And that's my last point on these Chiefs. I don't think their defense is going to be the same that they were 2 years ago. I honestly, they didn't make enough changes for me personally in this offseason to be better, other than what they have at the core player position. And these core players too, they're getting older. Chris Jones is getting older. Granted, he's a wrecker, but what have they done to really show me that they're going to improve? And I get it, you might be in shootouts, but I just don't see we're going to win these shootouts all the freaking time. I'm sorry, but we
I
do
think
got to
you
move on.
Well, I think really quick, Nelson, that you brought up a good point, and you mentioned something earlier about Mahomes not having the weapons he once had. In a lot of ways, that is because they're paying him so much money. They're paying Travis Kelce so much money. They're paying Chris Jones so much money. Justifiably so. They have to pay those guys. They're worth it. But that limits what you can spend elsewhere. And in the free agency era, the salary cap era, this is what has happened. This is what has broken up great teams is you can't pay everyone. And so you start to lose the overall talent on the rest roster. You mentioned players get older. It was going to happen eventually. I mean, not everyone can do what Bill Belichick was able to do, where he's just willing to say, you know what, you cost too much now, we're cutting you, and somehow we're going to miraculously replace you with another really good player and keep this thing going for 19 consecutive
Yeah.
winning seasons. We may never see that again. So, sorry, Nelson, go ahead.
No, no, we're not going to see that again, and we're never going to see it again where we have a quarterback being so nice to take a pay cut every single time he gets paid, and that's what Brady did. I
Yeah.
can't tell you how many times.
But the Chiefs still have
Um,
12 consecutive winning seasons, and that's Andy Reid's 12 years there. So let's give them a lot of credit in that regard. I think they've made the playoffs in
yeah.
11 of them. I mean, they've been really good. What, 9 straight playoff berths now? So
Yeah, and they got a
yeah,
team behind them that has been their little brother for so many years, and it's coming in hot. And I know you got a lot of points to talk about the LA Chargers. So with the LA Chargers, Chris, you got the first word.
yeah. I think head to head with the Chiefs, they've given us some great games, but they always lose. And I think that's the thing with the Chargers is for so many years now, and people out in LA mention this a lot. They play in so many more close games than any other team in the league over this long, long stretch of time. And more often than not, they lose them. And they're just so up and down. They have a good team and then a bad team. And it's just been crazy for them. And they almost feel snake bitten. I mean, this franchise has
Yeah.
only been to one Super Bowl, and it went very poorly. It was one of the biggest Super Bowl blowouts in NFL history. And I'm not going to go back through their history. We know there's some high water marks in the late 2000s that we could touch on another time. But when looking at the Chargers now and looking at if they can consistently be good, because they did have a good team last year, Jim Harbaugh is a big part of that. I mean, when they hired him, we knew instantly, look, the Chargers are probably going to be good now. He is a great coach, just like his older brother in Baltimore. And so I think we can count on the Chargers in all likelihood to be good. We can expect that from Jim Harbaugh. I just don't know how good they can be, and some of the teams around them look like they got better. I don't think they have surpassed the Chiefs. You just brought that up. I still think they're behind them. The team behind them and the Denver Broncos, who we'll talk about next, I think has gotten better. I think the Chargers may have even gotten a little bit worse, which I'm about to touch on. So I think the Broncos have surpassed them. I think the Steelers and the Bengals probably have surpassed the Chargers. 7 teams make the playoffs in the AFC. I think the Chargers are the 8th best team. I think they're a good team, but I think they just missed the playoffs. The reasons why start with Justin Herbert. Look, Justin Herbert's first couple years in the league, he looked like a rising star. He looked like he was going to be a really good, if not great, quarterback. The past few years, I feel like he hasn't been as good. He's still been good. Don't misunderstand me here. And at
Mhm.
times, Justin Herbert, man, He throws one of the most accurate balls you'll see, and he is pretty consistent with that. But there are some games against good, if not great defenses, he seems to just unravel. I'm going to circle back to that in a moment here. It's just the consistency from him when he goes up against that tougher competition. And you're paying him a lot of money, like he is a superstar, and I just don't know that he's there. And that's what I want to touch on is in the playoff game against the Houston Texans, and it's not the first time we've seen this from Justin Herbert in a big game or a playoff game, he completely unraveled. I don't want to take away from that Houston defense, which was great, but Justin Herbert looked bad. It's not just the 4 interceptions and lack of touchdown passes. It's the poor completion percentage. He looked bad. Those interceptions were horrible throws.
Yeah.
He looked horrible in that game. When you're watching it was miserable. You're like, what is wrong with you right now? I mean, you're ruining this playoff game. It's a joke because you're playing so poorly. And it's a team thing. The team lost the game. He didn't go out and do it by himself. The defense was horrible as well, but oh man, he was bad. And that can't happen. So I need to see more consistency from him and him to put together at least a really good season, or I think there might be some questions around Justin Herbert after the season. We'll see what happens. We're a long ways off from that. We'll see the season he has. But it is interesting when you start to look at the pieces around him. Look, we know in that Jim Harbaugh offense they want to run the football, which I think benefits Justin Herbert. I think it did last year. They drafted Amari Hampton in the first round, who's a power running back with a lot of speed. He breaks a lot of tackles. He's tough to bring down. They go out and get Najee Harris, who's another bruising running back. Can Najee Harris look like the guy he was as a rookie? Maybe this is a better fit for him in this offense than what he was in Pittsburgh, and he can look more like that. We'll see what Amari Hampton can be in the NFL and if he can be what he was in college. So it will be interesting in that regard. Rashawn Slater at left tackle, I think, is an interesting guy to talk about. As a rookie, he had a great season and looked like he was going to be a star in the league. The next couple of years, he wasn't as good. He was still good, but he wasn't great. Last year, he wasn't still quite as good as he was as a rookie, but he had a really good season, and finally I think you felt like he's still that guy. So we have that piece, protect Justin Herbert's blind side, help in the run game. So they have that, but there's some questions with the receivers. If Ladd McConkey stays healthy now in year 2, he looks like he can be a good wide receiver for them. I think he's someone who's worth being excited about, but Quentin Johnston, he was a first-round draft pick, correct? At TCU?
Yeah, and he's been underperforming.
He's never come close to living up to it, and he's been in the league long enough now that I don't know that he's going to. He might even have to put the bust label on him, and they need him to be that guy. The big problem with him is he needs to catch the ball. When he gets open and Justin Herbert throws him an accurate ball, he needs to catch it. If he can do that consistently throughout the season, he could probably have a career year, assuming he plays the same way he has. But even that still wouldn't be good enough. That's how disappointing he's been. And I don't know that he's going to suddenly be better outside of that one element than what we've seen from him. So that receiving core is a concern. I mean, Mike Williams obviously retired. They were hoping to have him back, and he could never stay healthy anyway. So, I mean, that is a big concern. And how good can Justin Herbert realistically be if we don't know what the running game is going to be? We hope they have a good power running game. But even if they do, and even if Ladd McConkey's good and Quentin Johnston has a career year, I still don't know that that's good enough for this team to have high-level success. Defensively,
I agree.
I want to start with the edge rushers. Khalil Mack is still playing at a really high level. He's really good year after year. We know what they have there with him. He's going to wreak havoc in the backfield and make plays. It's the guy they don't have in Joey Bosa. It's not just that they moved on from Joey Bosa. I know he always missed a lot of games with injuries. He couldn't stay healthy. He did have a really good season when he played last year, though. He did, and he has for the most part throughout his career. By cutting him, they actually had to eat a lot of dead money. He only had 1 year left on his contract. I'm not sure what they're spending the additional money they saved by cutting him outside of the dead money on, but it doesn't seem like it's worth their while and is better than what they could get out of Joey Bosa for one more season and then not eat any dead money. And if he were to stay healthy and have a really good season, he's a big boost for you. And then if you choose to move on from him and let him go sign elsewhere in free agency, fine. But instead you lose him, you eat the dead money, which limits what you can spend elsewhere on the roster and limits the overall talent and depth you can have. And in addition to that, he goes to Buffalo, and if he stays healthy there and has a really good season, he looks like at this point in time, not career-wise, but at this point in time, an upgrade over Von Miller. Potentially make the Bills' defense and team better. They're a contender in the conference. That hurts you as well. And so I didn't like that decision. I just felt like keeping him for another year was more beneficial. I just don't see how it benefits this team. So I think they're
Yeah.
poised to potentially take a step back this year. I still think they'll be good, but I do think they're in position to be able to get a lot better in the future. I just don't think this is the year. The last player I want to mention is Derwin James, who I think is the best player on that defense and on that football team. Derwin James is another guy. We just talked about Trent McDuffie, and I mentioned Marlon Humphrey with that as well. He was one of the best safeties in the league for years. I mean, even as a rookie, he was instantly as good a safety as there was in the league. We know he was a great player at Florida State. I know he missed some time with injury, but we know how talented he was. And I mean, coming out of high school, he was supposed to be that. We know the way Jimbo Fisher always talked about him and how good he was. And right off the bat, like I said, as a rookie, megastar, as good a safety as there was in the league. Hurt the next couple of years, but when he came back, he worked his way back up to that level. But 2 years ago, he didn't have a great season. He wasn't as good as he had been. So they move him up to slot corner. He was great in that role last year. I mean, he had a great season playing in the slot at that cornerback position. Great fit for him. So I like what they did there. I give credit to the coaching staff for that. And he is a tremendous piece that they have. So I think the Chargers are a good team. I just think that they're a good team that misses the playoffs just barely and maybe isn't quite as good as they were last year. And I'm interested to have a conversation after the season. Nelson, what are your thoughts on the Chargers?
Well, I'm not gonna mimic everything that you're saying, but I'm gonna add a lot more to it, a lot more key points. So first of all, I don't think this offense is capable of producing what they did last year. You hit the nail on the head. Herbert, he has always been, no matter what, and he's getting paid like it, but no matter what, he's always been compared to the Kirk Cousins of the world and the Dak Prescotts of the world, the same tier. I mean, he's got the potential to be a lot better than these two quarterbacks because of his arm talent. The problem is that when it comes to critical games, he shuns. He shuns away from the light. He doesn't perform well. And that's the biggest gripe that a lot of folks always have about Herbert is the biggest lights, the biggest moments, he just always shies away. And then you talked about having the Lad McConkey. Yeah, sure, Lad McConkey, he is a star that's growing in the league. You know, he's a first-year rookie receiver last year. This will be his second year. You got Quentin Johnson. Quentin Johnson's really never developed the last couple of years that he, you know, after he got drafted. You have a veteran tight end in Will Dissly. Will Dissly's not a barn burner by any year. He had a successful year last year. There were some games where it's like he was catching every ball that Herbert was throwing to him, and he was having some great games, but that's not going to make the offense that much greater. I mean, you were talking about the running backs too. You know, Najee Harris, the guy they drafted, Hampton. I'm sorry, but even if these guys that they have now, are they better than what the room that they had last year? If they had a healthy room last year of J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's not giving me any reason to think that the Chargers are going to be any better or even on the run game. I'm sorry. It's just not. Their defense, for me, the biggest gripe I have about the defense is, yes, like you said, Joey Bosa. Letting Joey Bosa go was probably the biggest, like, retractable thing he could have done to this defense, which was a pretty damn good defense last year. They were 11 total defense. They were 7th against the pass, 14th against the rush. But when you let go of a Bosa, who granted may not be the best pass rusher that he was in his heyday, he was still a good rush defensive end that will hold his lane, hold his blocks, and get the linebackers in position to get the tackle. But you let him go. It didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense. And to pretty much kind of bow everything up into a tie, I do think that the roster took a step back. And the biggest weapon that I didn't like also, in addition to everything I said that they let go, was Joshua Palmer. That man was the most consistent receiver that they've had on their team for the last couple of seasons. You saw him play in a slot position. He was a speed burner. He would always get downfield, have a couple of catches for 100 yards, whatever, and have a touchdown. Last year, when he was relied upon to come in last year to play, there were times when he was the only receiver out there, but guess what? He was performing. I just don't get these moves. So, yes, I'm agreeing with you. The Chargers are taking a step back. I honestly don't see that they're going to be any better than what they were last year. If anything, 2 steps back, whatever. But you got the last word on them. But that's how I see the Chargers.
The Kirk Cousin comparison is fine and fair. The Dak Prescott one, I don't agree with you on. Dak Prescott's a great quarterback. He is. I'm not with you on that. Dak Prescott is a great quarterback. The winning and losing is a team thing. Dak Prescott is a great quarterback.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean,
The
fair
run
enough.
game is the run game is an interesting topic because I think there's potential there for them to be better in the run game. I think Amari Hampton, Najee Harris could be better than guys like J.K. Dobbins and I was Hassan Haskins, the other Baltimore.
Gus Edwards.
They still have
Gus
Hassan
Edwards.
Haskins. Gus Edwards. Yeah, I know they had a bunch of guys from his brother John had in Baltimore with the Ravens. They had 3 of them, and we'll talk about J.K. Dobbins shortly here, potentially. But when he was healthy, he did play well, and that's always been the case with him, going back to when he was at Ohio State. But he just hasn't been able to stay healthy, and it's really unfortunate for him because I think you and I would both love to see him have a fully healthy season. And again, we're probably going to talk about him in a moment here, so we can touch on that later. But I do think there's potential for that backfield to be better than what it was last year. We don't know. We're going to find out. I am curious really quickly before I get to my last point. In terms of Joshua Palmer, I'm curious, do you think that Joshua Palmer was better than Ladd McConkey? Because I do not. I think Ladd McConkey was better. And I'm not taking anything away from Josh Palmer or anything you said. I'm just curious who you thought was the better receiver.
Ladd McConkey is the better receiver, yes. But as far as explosiveness, you're going to get that explosiveness out of Joshua Palmer. When he was lined up in the slot, every defense that had to face him had to run a certain coverage, whether you were bracketing him, whether you were aware if he's going to run essentially that deep down the middle seam post, or if he was going to come across the field on a dig route. Joshua Palmer was always that guy that would always be often forgotten on the field, but he was always that backside receiver. And that's what Herbert loved to do, throwing the ball to him. And even if he wasn't that slot receiver, you can line him up in the flank in the Y slot opposite of the X. And he could still take on corners and beat them on fade routes, beat them on go routes. He was so quick off the line. That's where his speed shined so much too. I think I was watching on Red Zone. Maybe you remember this too, Chris, but it was against the Raiders, and I just remember seeing a 70-yard bomb from Herbert all the way to Palmer on the left-hand side, and I'm just like, yeah, Palmer didn't have the greatest of games, but that was his 3rd catch of the game, and it was for almost a 7-yard bomb. So his versatility to be able to play both the outside as a wideout and also the slot receiver, that's where I think Buffalo's gaining a nice piece, but the Chargers are losing a very versatile piece because, like we talked about, Quentin Johnson hasn't lived up. Meanwhile, you had a Palmer who's developed into what he is, if not more, in today's NFL. So I hope that answers your question. But yeah, Ladd McConkey, he's that.
Well.
Ladd McConkey's the star player. He's always gonna get the first couple of looks and everything. He's always gonna be the X. But Palmer, he was that curveball that literally, Greg Roman can throw in that offense anytime you wanted to, and he could catch your defense sleeping, and that's what he would do.
When you say star, are you stating that because he's their star, as in he's wide receiver 1, or you're calling him a star in the league?
He's their wide receiver 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the Denver Broncos. You have the first word, Nelson.
Are we riding high, Denver, huh? Are we riding into Broncos country, right? Like Russell Wilson used to say all the time, right? We riding, right?
Let's ride.
Well, listen, Denver, I am stupid excited for your team this year. I'm not going to lie. And no, I'm not being biased whatsoever. I honestly think that, and I've been saying it since last year, I really do think that Bo Nix could very well be the next Drew Brees of this league. He's got the talent. He's got the arm. He's got the intelligence. I've been harping on it since day one. And I got sold, I think it was the Monday Night Football game. I don't remember. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was Monday night or Sunday night. Sorry. It was a 40 to 50 yard seam route down the middle, gets quarters coverage, and he's throwing to Marvin Mims, who's literally running down, splitting the safety and the corner. And it's a needle. Boom, catch it on the ball.
It was actually a Saturday. Oh. It was a Saturday late afternoon game. So I think it was a 4:30 game in NFL Network. It was a triple header in NFL Network late in the season.
Was it? Because I remember it was like 3rd and 17 or 3rd and 18.
So I believe it was a 4:30 game East Coast time. So in Denver, it would have been a 2:30 game Mountain time.
Okay,
And
okay.
it was against Cincinnati. Is that the one against the Bengals, and they won in
I think
overtime in a
so.
classic game. And Bo Nix at the end of that game was on the last couple possessions was unbelievable. And Marvin Mims had a big impact in that game. And I know the three you're talking about. That was the game when Bo Nix threw up the touchdown pass to the right corner of the end zone in the final seconds to get it to overtime.
Yes, 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 it was.
That was, I think that may have been the best game of last season. It's one of the best games I've ever seen. It was an all-time classic because Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase actually they did a good job on him because we'll talk about it in a moment here. You will. They have Patrick Tan, but Joe
That
Burrow put on
was
a show. T. Higgins had a big game. It was unbelievable. It was so good. And you're right.
that
Bo
was
Nix blew me away in that game. I was like, this might be the guy. I'm with you, Nelson. Yeah, that was a
I've
Saturday
been
afternoon game.
like I said, I've been calling it since day one. Well, maybe we could be talking about another game, but that was one of his better throws of the season, regardless.
They had the
He's
running
always
game
been throwing the
against
ball like
Cleveland
that.
when he played well, but as well.
It was the Cleveland game. It was the Cleveland game. They were third. It
When
was like third
Jameis
and 18,
Winston
third and
and Jerry
19.
Jeudy had a big game on the other side. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
there we go.
He
Now
did
we
play very
correct
well in that
ourselves.
one as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
but against teams from Ohio, apparently he shows out. Sorry, Ohio.
so long story short, when I heard out of Denver that, essentially Sean Payton had said, here's the playbook. Come back to me 3 days later, and he reiterates the whole thing. I said, this guy is about to be the next Drew Brees because to learn Sean Payton's offense, to understand all the concepts, understand all the play designs and everything out of his scheme itself, that goes to show you this guy's got a lot of wizardry in his head. And the biggest gripe that Russell Wilson was getting from Sean Payton the year before was that he was not given the same freedom that Bo Nix was given freedom this year. And Bo Nix got the freedom probably halfway through the season, but he was able to audible, change the calls and everything. But Sean Payton loves Bo Nix. I'm telling you, he's going to be the next Drew Brees. He's got the talent. He may not have the strongest arm because Drew Brees didn't either, but he's deadly accurate. Deadly accurate. At time, I'm telling you, he's deadly accurate. Deadly accurate. Some of those balls that he threw, his completion percentage, I don't know what it is, may not be arguably the best of the best this past year. But throwing those needle passes, throwing on-time routes, on breaking routes, he is deadly. Long story short, enough of the Bo Nix fan craze. They were 10-7 last year, third in the AFC West. You guys lost to Buffalo in the wild card round. Now, granted, it's because Bo Nix is now finally seeing postseason play in his first year. I mean, he was one of the 5 or 6 quarterbacks, I think, drafted within the first 2 rounds or something like that in the NFL last year.
First round.
First round. Okay. So for what he's done and what he was able to do, applaud to Bo Nix. Because honestly, if it wasn't for Bo, who knows how good Denver could have been last year, and who knows how Denver could be going into this year. The same thing. And we were talking about this a couple of episodes earlier, but they added Talanoa Hufanga, Drake Greenlaw, Evan Engram. I mean, that defense is nasty. Chris, and I know you're going to harp on that a little bit more than I will, but that defense looks like it's going to literally see you guys, anybody who's opposing, and say, hey, I'm ready to eat your food off your dinner plate tonight, and I'm going to take the seconds off of you later. I mean, that's how mean and nasty these guys are going to be. Listen, when you essentially got the best corner in the league, you got essentially an upcoming pass rusher, Nick Bonito, and DJ Jones. He's not that bad either. And now you have Hufanga in the secondary. God, I mean, this defense, if they're not top 5 next year, they're underperforming. They're underperforming, even if they're 6th, 7th, or 8th. Huh?
Zach
There's
Allen,
a what?
defensive end, Zach Allen. That's another edge rusher.
Well, there you go, too. There you go, too. But listen, we all know what the Denver Broncos could do and can do. They definitely have a lot of trajectory in my mind to be the first team to finally dethrone the Chiefs, and I think they can, because if you have a Sean Payton who is one of the best coaches in our lifetime, not not the whole entire NFL history, but in our lifetime. And then you have a young Bo Nix who is playing above his years, an excellent defense to pitch also. This team, I'm telling you right now, Denver Broncos, look out. They are going to punch people in the face, and they are going to come in hunting the hunted, and they are going to make a lot of noise. And I would not be surprised if they dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs. You got the word.
Wow, that was awesome. That was exciting. I'm still coming down off of that. That was good stuff. Drew Brees did have good arm strength early in his career. As his career progressed and he got older, his arm strength declined, and Sean Payton adjusted to that with more of the dink and dunk offense, which I think is what you're referencing. You're thinking of the old, as in terms of his age, Drew Brees.
Okay, fair enough.
And Sean Payton has implemented more of that offense for Bo Nix because that's what Bo Nix did in college, where he was so successful at Oregon. Honestly, that's when he was at his best at Auburn as well. But the Auburn offense
Don't remind me
was
of those
favorable to
games.
him.
The
Yeah.
Iron Bowl game, Bo Nix. Oh my God! Don't remind me of
He
that game.
struggled a lot then. He was supposed to be, the next Bo, right after Bo Jackson, and obviously his dad was an Auburn guy as well in the case of Bo Nix. But when he went to Oregon is when he really thrived in that
Yeah,
offense.
he shined. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but it was. I mean, don't get me wrong. He did throw the ball down the field so much. He did last year as well. And you mentioned some of those plays, so oftentimes to Marvin Mims, who's a burner. And Marvin Mims is the best punt returner in the league. So you want to talk about that offense. It's always set up well because of what Marvin Mims Jr. does. And then he has an impact as a wide receiver. But I think Sean Payton has catered that offense to Bo Nix so he can dink and dunk and be very accurate. I mean,
Yeah.
he had the single season record setting completion percentage in college at Oregon. So we know that, and that was a lot because of the dink and dunk stuff, the talent around
Yeah.
him. I
Right,
don't
right.
know he necessarily has that talent now. So looking at that roster overall, beyond Bo Nix, I am curious about it. I actually want to ask you a question really quick before I dive in. Do you think Sean Payton's a Hall of Famer? If this was his last season, regardless of what happens, would he be inducted in the Hall of Fame?
Yes. Do I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer? Maybe the second or third, but not first.
Okay, I agree with you that he's a Hall of Famer, and I think there's an argument to be made that maybe he's a first ballot, but I agree with you that more than likely he's not. But he's a Hall of Famer. When it boils down to
Yeah.
it, Hall of Famer's a Hall of Famer. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I'm curious about the running back room because I said we were going to talk about J.K. Dobbins, so here it is. They add him. Look, if J.K. Dobbins can stay healthy, we just said it, I'd be so curious to see what he can do. I mean, he's a productive back who can be good. Audric Estime goes into year 2. I'm curious to see what he can do. He looked good at times last year. He was a problem for opposing defenses at Notre Dame, so he's definitely a guy who can be good. I mean, he is so strong and powerful, just tough to bring down. Sean Payton seems to love Jaleel McLaughlin. I mean, he always likes those good receiving running backs. If you want to go back, Reggie Bush, Darren Sproles, Alvin Kamara. I think he kind of has that guy of more of a scat back in Jaleel McLaughlin, and he's had a lot of good moments for them. So I think there's some depth in that backfield that we know Sean Payton loves that. He's always got multiple running backs he wants to use, sometimes 3 or 4, and I think he has it again. I know they drafted someone as well. So there's some pieces there that if he can get them in the right situations and have the right guy in the field at the right time, which I think we can count on him for the most part to do, that running game can be successful, and not just as rushers, but as receivers out of the backfield as well. The receivers are where I have pause. Yes, Marvin Mims Jr. is an outstanding punt returner. Yes, he's a good wide receiver, but he's not going to be a big-time difference maker. Courtland Sutton is a guy who, going back to I think it was his second season, was really good and looked like a rising star. He tore his ACL in the opener the next year and was having a really good game prior to that.
Yeah.
And he never really looked the same. He seems to be working his way back up. Last year, he did have a good season. Past couple of years, he seemed to have been trending upwards. But I don't know that he's necessarily going to get back to that level he was at. And so I have questions about that receiving core and just how good they really are. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I think Courtland Sutton prior to last year because I to be honest with you, I've been watching a lot of Denver football too recently, and I liked what I saw out of Courtland Sutton in the games that he did perform. He was very consistent. He was getting 7, 8, 9, 10 targets a game. He was catching at least close to half of those, if not 60% of those catches, and he was a good touchdown threat. He's not the premier Courtland Sutton we saw fresh out of college when it's like you said, granted, he is a superstar, but he's a good complementary. He's a good complementary piece to, I think, which is I don't want to say it's an excellent receiving core room, but they have talent. I think Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, and they have a young thoroughbred in Devon Bell, who I'm very interested to see how Devon Bell does too, because last year he had some games where it's like, oh boy, this guy, he's pretty good. So they do have some guys over in that room. So I think Bo
Well,
Nix,
on the tight end, Evan Ingram, they added. You
yeah, Evan
mentioned
Ingram
that.
too, yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
we know how
yeah, yeah,
good Evan Ingram is when he's healthy. So
yeah,
I think that's the number
absolutely.
one target. That's the option. Because Evan Ingram is built like a receiver.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
I think he's the guy on that offense, even though I said it before, the best right guard in the league last year was Quinn Miners, and he's the best player in that offense. I mean, he's big time. You run the ball behind him and what he can do in pass protection as well.
Yeah.
He's a big time difference maker. But I agree with you. If Bo Nix ascends, which we hope he doesn't have a sophomore slump like CJ Stroud, we hope he does, and he looks like he should and will. And they add Evan Ingram, and you're talking about some of those receivers getting better. Yeah, that offense should be better, and if that offense is better with how great the defense is, I'm
Yep.
with you. This team is ascending. They're on the rise. I don't think they're there to dethrone the Chiefs. Now, when the Chiefs come to Denver, I mean, they nearly beat them there last year. It took that blocked field goal to beat the Broncos. I think they'll get them. And that's a big thing with the Broncos is those fans are great. They have a great home field advantage, and the altitude is such a home
It's
field
tough to
advantage.
play there. It's tough to play
Big
there.
time difference
It
maker, and
is.
they're used to it. Opposing teams aren't. But let's talk about that defense. I mean, it is so exciting. And look, 2 years ago, had a game where they gave up 10 touchdowns to the Miami Dolphins. It was an embarrassment. And all their other games that season, that defense was quietly pretty good, but that's all we remembered. Then they move on from their perennial all-pro safety, Justin Simmons, and it's like, this defense is going to take a step back. They give up 10 touchdowns in a game. This is concerning. They were great. I want to give Vance Joseph credit, not just for what he did as a defensive coordinator and has for his
Mm-hmm.
career,
Damn right.
but I felt like he was unjustly fired by them when he was their head coach.
Mm.
I don't know that he necessarily would have done a good job and it would have improved, but I felt like it wasn't the right move at the time, and I
Hmm.
feel like the Broncos consistently made, head-scratching decisions with their coaching
I agree.
hires and fires prior to Sean Payton. And so I didn't like the move. And for him to come back, we just don't see that. To come back and be the defensive coordinator, not the head coach, after being the head coach there, it's unbelievable that he was actually willing to do that. All the credit in the world for him. And man, has he done a great job with that defense. And then you start talking about the pieces they have. And they replaced Justin Simmons now with Talanoa Hufanga. And if he can stay healthy, we know he's as good a safety as there is in the league. And you've got, I already named these guys, but let's go through them again. Zach Allen at defensive end. Great season last year. Looks like he's a star. You've got Nick Benito at outside linebacker. Great season last year. Looks like he's going to be a star. They add Dre Greenlaw at the other outside linebacker position, and we know Dre Greenlaw's a good player when he's healthy, so that looks like it should be an upgrade, even if he's not quite on the level of those guys. And then, you add Talanoa Hufanga, and they have the best cornerback, the best defensive player in the league, and Patrick Surtain II, the reigning defense player of the year. He missed the game and still was the best defensive player in the league. I wouldn't be surprised if it's so hard for quarterbacks to win that award, but he's that good that he could even do it again this year if he stays healthy. He is special. Just a lockdown cover corner, and he still is a playmaker, gets those interceptions, turns them into stuff. He has those plays. The pick six against the Raiders, which was a horrible pass, to be fair, incredibly inaccurate. It's not like he was in great position, but great players make those plays when they get their
Yeah.
opportunities. He's special. So that defense is scary. It's as talented a defense as there is in the league and as well coached as there is. And Sean Payton is an offensive genius, and you've got that solid talent on offense. Guys look like they're ascending. Nelson, man, I'm with you. I'm excited about the future of the Broncos. And one thing that needs to be mentioned is when they waived Russell Wilson, or moved on from him, I believe they traded him, but moved on from him, they ate a whole bunch of dead money to do so.
They did.
So that
Yeah.
limited what they could spend on that roster last year. They're still eating some dead money from that this year, but it's less. So when they were good last year, it felt like they could ascend if they can manage this situation right. Did they ever go on and get those two guys from San Francisco and Evan Ingram, as you mentioned? They spent that money wisely. Look, and now they're going to have even more cap space next year with the remaining dead money they're eating gone, and no dead money being eaten next year, assuming they handle things right. And if they invest that money wisely as well, and they do improve this year, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's a scary thought, especially if the Chiefs regress and the Chargers. Oh man, it's scary. So I'm not just looking at the Broncos for this year. I think they'll be better this season. I think they could be the 5 seed. I don't think they can win a playoff game, but they can be way more competitive than they were in Buffalo. But it's going forward beyond that where they can get it done. Yeah, I expect Houston to be the 4 seed. We've seen what Houston has done with their home playoff games the past 2 years. They have absolutely dominated the opposition. I expect that to continue. I think that the Texans and different division, but I do think that the Texans are in position to get better. But I am excited about the long-term future for the Denver Broncos if they do get better this year and manage things right. And give us your final word, Nelson. Man, the Broncos fans are going to love us. Some other fan bases maybe not so much.
Well,
We'll come visit Denver.
Listen, Broncos country, you guys are set up literally for the next, as Chris was saying, the next 3, 4, 5 years beyond this. Because not only do you have Bo Nix on a rookie contract for 5 years, let me say it again.
If they pick up the
5 years, because he's a first-round pick. 5 years.
If you pick up the
so right now you're playing with
years,
monopoly money for the next 4 years, easy.
Potentially.
I mean, this is insane, and this is coming from a Washington fan because we're in the same boat with Jaden Daniels. So, I mean, listen, I'm happy for the Broncos. The Chiefs themselves, if the Chiefs don't get knocked off this year by Bo Nix and company, they'll get knocked off next year because the Chiefs, I see a regression coming the year after that. And the year after that, there's no promise that essentially they're getting any younger and they're getting any better. And second of, that's fair, right?
They're way up here, so to come down is a long fall for them.
Well, listen. I mean, they're facing with behemoths with Baltimore and Buffalo, and Baltimore.
The Broncos went to Buffalo and got mollywopped. The Chiefs always beat the Bills in the playoffs. It's a
No, I get that, but what I'm saying is, for the long run, for the next 5 years, they are in now monopoly money land where they can do whatever they want for essentially the next 4 or 5 years. It's Denver, exactly. Versus these other teams, which may be on the hook next year or the year after that. But I am going to, with my last word, say that, you know what? This is my bold statement. He's going to have a top 5 offensive player of the year type season this year. Mark it, put it in writing. Offensive player of the year.
I with you on that. So we're going to revisit this in January. In fact, I think that Drake May will have a better season than Bo Nix. I do. Yeah. I do.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think Jaden Daniels will as well. Different conference, but I think he will as well. That might be a bit harder to grade, but
isn't that crazy that we're discussing how these younger quarterbacks are going to be a lot better than some of the vets?
Was the number 1 overall pick now in Ben Johnson's offense, and I'm curious to see how that plays out and some of the talent around him. And yeah,
but you know what,
Mike, they were all in the top 12 picks. I mean, 1, 2, 3, and then 8, and we got JJ McCarthy in Minnesota. So there's 6 of them. Half the first 12 picks last year.
It's amazing what we're seeing with all these quarterbacks, how good they have become, honestly. Well, not all, because 3 of them have shown. But the other 2 we're still waiting to see.
Drake May showed a lot of potential, and I think Bo Nix showed potential as well.
Yeah, that's a fair statement, but I think, that was clearly the best draft of quarterbacks that we've seen in a long time.
All 6 of those guys can start all 17 games for respective teams this season, and the teams around them can stay healthy. Those can be good situations, get good play calling.
Absolutely.
And we can really, truly get to see what they can be. I agree with you. It's exciting. It'll be fun to revisit that in January.
In January. This will be a fun season. We're gonna have quite a fun when we have to revisit this because I honestly
extensive coverage, so we'll be there for it all.
Yeah,
guys.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned because this is going to be fun. This is going to be a fun year. Yeah. So but that's my final word. So we got to talk about Raiders. And Chris, you got the first word on the Raiders.
Yeah, look, it's tough with the Raiders. I mean, they were a bad team yet again last season. Yes, there's a lot of excitement because they brought in Pete Carroll as head coach. He brought in Geno Smith with him. We'll talk about that in a moment, but let's talk about the bad first because the Raiders are a bad team, and I expect them to be better, which you mentioned earlier. I agree with you on that. I think they'll be better, but I still don't think they'll be good. We just talked about how good this division is, so that's hard for them right there off the bat. And look, since the Raiders lost Super Bowl 37, falling to
long time ago,
to their former head coach, John Gruden, who they traded prior to that season and beat their butts in that Super Bowl, The only team since 2003 over the past 22 years that has a worse overall record in the league than them are the Cleveland Browns. The Raiders have been
Ofer.
horrible. They've only been in the
Yeah.
playoffs twice. So have the Browns. They've only had two winning seasons of those two seasons. The Browns actually have
Yeah.
another winning season, and it was also a double-digit win season. And the Browns have won a playoff game, which the Raiders have not done. So they may have more total wins than the Browns and not the low points the Browns have had, but the Browns have had high points that the Raiders haven't had. That's how brutally bad they've been. And you're talking about a franchise that for 35 years or so, from the late 60s to that '02 season, was as good as there was in the league, realistically. I mean, they were tremendous. I mean, you had the odd win. The only team in the league that NFL Films gave their own theme song to. John Facenda reciting the poem over it. Those great highlights, great coaches, great players, great calls. The Raiders are an NFL Films darling. They were so exciting for
Yeah.
so long, and it just felt like they traded John Gruden and Bill Callahan his second year after that had a horrible season, and it's all been pretty miserable since then. The low point in '06, they went 2-14, and then drafted Jamarcus Russell and the bust that he was. It's just been brutal. So they've got a long way to go to climb back up, and we'll see if Pete Carroll can do that. It just needs to start this year with being better. Geno
Yeah.
Smith didn't have a great season last year, but now back with Pete Carroll, maybe that improves. And if he can play a bit better than he did last
Good
season,
point.
he's definitely a huge upgrade for them
Yeah.
at quarterback from what they've had the past couple of years.
Absolutely.
Moved on from Derek Carr, and it's just been a nightmare for them. So that alone could be helpful. We'll see what they can get out of the running game. Obviously, they drafted Ashton Genty to be the guy, so we'll see what he can be. They added Mostert, so that's a nice piece there. So they have a couple good running backs. So I expect the quarterback play to be better than last season. I expect the running game to be better than last season. But it comes down to who's Geno Smith going to be throwing the ball to and getting the ball to outside of those backs. And Brock Bowers, the best tight end in the league as a rookie. This guy was unbelievable, Nelson. What do you have, 112 receptions? I know it was a 17-game season. It was not a Raiders single-season rookie record, not a tight end record. It was the most receptions by a player in Raiders history. Think about that for a moment. I mean, you're talking about Freddie Bolitnikoff and Tim Brown. I know he was at the end of his career, but even Jerry Rice played for them for a few years, the GOAT. And he had more receptions in a single season as a rookie tight end with that horrible quarterback play than any of them. I mean, in college at Georgia, he was talked about as maybe the greatest college tight end we've ever seen. And so what he went on and did, I mean, it was special. He had an unbelievable season. I think
mean,
he's going to be the best tight end in the league. Go ahead.
and he
What you got?
dethroned he dethroned Sam Laporta's. I'm literally looking at it. Previous record of 86 receptions by a
The
rookie
year
tight
before.
end. I mean, that's
He shattered it.
insane. That's
Shattered the record.
insane.
And Sam Laporta had one of the best rookie seasons by a tight end we've ever seen. And the next
Yep.
year, he just destroyed that. And then I
Yep.
think the other tight end, I think they'll run a lot of two tight end sets because they have Michael Mayer as well, who they invested a relatively high draft pick in, I believe, and was a really good college tight end at Notre Dame. So I think we'll see a lot of that, but those wide receivers are not very good. And that's where the concern is for me. Yeah, hopefully they can run the ball well, which we know is Pete Carroll's thing and what he wants to do, and we'll see what Ashton Genty can be and what Raheem Mostert has left in the tank. Yeah, Geno Smith should be an upgrade at quarterback. Yeah, Brock Bowers should be unbelievable, but I just don't know how good the offense can be with those wide receivers, and that offensive line isn't great. And I think it limits what the
Yeah.
offense can be. And then on defense,
Yeah.
Max Crosby is great. I mean, that
Mad
guy
Max.
is
Mad
he is
Max.
tremendous. But you really don't have anything outside of him. So yeah, you've got that piece, and you can build around, and that defense could be better, especially Max Crosby stays healthy and keeps playing at the level we've seen him at. So yes, I think that with Pete Carroll there, if they run the ball well, if Ashton Genty's a success, if Raheem Mostert has something left in the tank, and we know we're going to get out of Brock Bowers. I expect an unbelievable monster season out of him. Then the Raiders should be better. But in that division, and with how bad they've been, and the fact that they're the Raiders at this point in time, I mean, they're essentially stuck in purgatory, like a Jacksonville Jaguars, like a Cleveland Browns, like a New York Jets. Man, those bottom feeders in the AFC have had it rough for a long time now. It's just hard to expect much more than being better from them. What's your take?
So, if there is any reason for optimism, and I think there is some reason for optimism this year, do I expect the Raiders to essentially be the second best team in the AFC West? No. Do I think they could fight for third? Maybe. But the reasons for optimism is you have a defense that last year, even though some pieces may have gotten away with Spillane and others and Jack Jones and others, you do have a defense that consistently last year was putting up a fight, and your offense was just a lame duck. Your offense just couldn't do anything. And I like the additions to some of the talent that you brought in too. You brought in a Jeremy Chin, you brought in an Eric Stokes, which both players should help out your secondary tremendously. You brought in a Jamal Adams, who's a veteran player. He can stop the run still, even at his age. He may not be the secondary that can fly all over the field, but damn it, he can still play good rush defense. That's what he is, and he can also be an excellent off the corner edge, pass rusher too, coming off as a safety blitzer. So your defense is going to be good, and especially with how Pete Carroll ran his defenses in Seattle. It was bend but don't break. And if your offense can give your defense essentially enough rest and be able to perform well, I think there's could be some games where the Raiders might have been doubted to not win, but you guys could steal some games. Because there's another thing that we also need to discuss about too, is that last year towards the end of the year, yes, we all knew that the Raiders were not even in contention for the playoffs, whatever, they were in contention for, top five overall pick. But you know what? That rush offense caught my eye. That rushing attack of theirs caught my eye. Their stats say otherwise, and it's true. They were 32nd rush offense, but
They're
the
the
last
worst rush team
handful,
in the league. They were horrible.
no, but
They
the
lost to
last
Las
couple of games,
Vegas.
no, I'm saying the last couple of games. If you saw the last couple of games, they were formidable, formidable. I didn't say they were great. I didn't say they were,
I hear you. I hear you.
excellent.
Okay.
They were formidable. So if that's one thing that as an offense, or at least Raiders, you guys can hold your hat on is, can we build now off that momentum that we carried into the last part of last year into this year? If you guys can build a decent rushing attack, well, we know what Geno Smith has always been. He's been a good play action quarterback. And when you have a Brock Bowers, and it's not like you guys have a very bad, wide receiver room. I believe last time I checked, you guys have one of the faster slot receivers, Trey Tucker, who has been a speed burner and can actually, when he gets the ball in field and play, and he's able to actually just get the ball in space, he can turn upfield pretty quick. So, you have a veteran, Jacoby Myers. It's obvious that you guys need to add another premier X receiver, especially with now Devontae Adams not going out. Need that the Raiders do need another receiver. You guys do have some talent,
Desperately.
and you guys do need to focus on your rush game, your run game going forward. And if you guys do that, there might be some games where you do steal, and maybe you guys place third in the AFC West. I don't know that you guys will, but I think that's your ceiling to finish third. That's just my take on you guys. But what's your last word on the Raiders, Chris?
Well, I have two questions for you. One, what is record wise? What's your ceiling and your floor for the Chargers? And same question with the Raiders. What's your ceiling and floor for them? Because, I mean, I think we both agree the Chargers will be
Uh,
good. So if you think the Raiders could finish ahead of them, you're saying the Raiders would be good. That's a huge jump for them. Go ahead.
Chargers ceiling 10, floor 6.
Wow.
Las Vegas ceiling 9, floor 5.
Interesting. I find it hard to believe the Chargers will only win 6 games. I find it hard to believe they'll even have a losing record. I think 9 or 10 wins is spot on. Probably more likely 9, but we're getting carried away. The Raiders having a winning record just seems crazy to me, even with Pete Carroll there in that tough division. I just can't see it happening. I mean, they won 4 games last year, right?
There is one thing to say that Pete
Even
Carroll did
doubling their
bring.
win total seems crazy to me.
There is one thing to say to bring in that gives me another reason. I'll bring in as a nugget because this will help this offense in a way, especially when it comes to mitigating and hiding your weaknesses, especially on the offensive line and pass protection. They brought in Chip Kelly. Now, I granted, Chip Kelly was not a good head coach, but he's an offensive wizard.
in the NFL.
He's an offensive wizard. I think with his mind, he can do potential wonders with the limited capability of what he has with the Raiders. And that's why I said the highest possible ceiling for them would be 9 if everything were to work out in perfection, if it does. And that would be because of that wrinkle, again, because of the hiring of Chip Kelly.
You know something? I think Chip Kelly did a good job as the offensive coordinator at Ohio State last year. I know we're getting a little bit off topic. When they made that decision, I wasn't overly fond of it, not because of anything Chip Kelly did wrong. I was curious why he chose to move away from a head coaching job where he got to be in Los Angeles, coaching UCLA.
Yeah.
They were far from great, but they were good, and who knows that could become to go be an offensive coordinator. His reason, he explained it, and we've seen Josh McDaniels make a decision like that for maybe some different reasons. So I get that. But Ryan Day always had that offense flying high, and it was almost like it was his fault that, because he's the head coach, that his being an offensive coordinator and play caller as well was the reason they didn't win a championship. And last year they suddenly did, and was like, oh, because they had Chip Kelly do it. And the talent was different and factors like that. And he did a good job, particularly in those playoff games. But there were some games that I felt like Chip Kelly's play calling wasn't exactly great last season, his scheme and all of that. We'll see what Ohio State looks like this year with Brian Hartline calling plays, which is very interesting. We'll see how that works. But I have some questions about Chip Kelly in that regard. And also his offense didn't necessarily work in the NFL. That first year with the Eagles, it worked really well. But after that, and to be fair, he was a horrible general manager. But
yeah.
I mean, that disaster in San Francisco, didn't he take over for Jim Harbaugh? And I know they were only 500 Jim Harbaugh's last year, but they had some injuries. The guys retired and stuff like that. But it was really bad. So I don't know about that. I don't disagree with what you're saying about him, but I think there's more question marks there than maybe we're addressing. One last
Fair enough
thing,
to say.
Thoughts on Ashton
Sure.
Genty before we move on from you?
Sure. Ashton Genty, he reminds me of anybody remember the name Warwick Dunn?
You're going back to work done. Okay.
He reminds me a lot of Warwick Dunn. Power back, speed, has got a little bit of finesse, and he is just hard to bring down, and he has a nose for the red zone. He has a nose, a pure nose. And that's the one thing I love seeing, especially out of his play at a Boise State. Granted, he was playing against college athletes. Will he have the same type of games where he'll have 3, 4 touchdowns in a game in the NFL? I don't think so. But his biggest attribute, basically, when he runs the ball, he is so tight and he's so able to keep his grounding fool, right? You know how a lot
Center
of
of
coaches
gravity.
will say centered to the ground, that he is
Yeah,
so
center of gravity.
difficult to bring down, and he's gonna carry folks, and he's always gonna have that extra yard, 2 yards, 3 yards after the point of contact, and that's what Ashton Genty is going to do. And I'm excited for what he's going to bring to that Raiders offense because, like we discussed earlier in another episode, Ashton Genty is going to be competing for the Rookie Player of the Year, in my opinion. He's going to be competing. He's that good, and this guy is going to bring a lot of what we miss as NFL fans, what we miss of old school running backs, literally. Now, we have running backs in this league now in today's world, without getting too far off topic. We have a Saquon Barkley. But beyond Saquon, there's not that many that are in the same class as Saquon, right? That have the power, have the finesse. But this boy over here, Ashton Genty, he very well could be the next best one coming into the league the next 3, 4, 5 years. I'll leave it at that.
Work done, okay. The Southeast knows work done well. I mean, Florida State and Tampa and Atlanta.
You like how I
Had
brought that
success.
name out, huh?
That was a good one, and he does similar build and style. I see what you mean there. It was an interesting comparison. I think we should all go watch some Work Done highlights. Work Done was really good, man. He really was. He was
He was.
unbelievable college running back at Florida State with Bobby Bowden. And he was a
Yeah.
really good running back in the NFL with both the Bucks and the Falcons. It's worth noting. We
Yeah.
referenced that Bucks team that won the Super Bowl in '02. That was the first year they were without Work Done. Interestingly enough, so. John Gruden didn't have him there, but they got him back at the end of his career, his last year in '08, which was also John Gruden's last year in Tampa. We digress big time. Nelson, what are your pre-training camp predictions for the AFC West division.
So as much as I'm going to be short, hear me out, everybody. Hear me out, everybody. So drum roll, please. Denver Broncos, first in the AFC West. Kansas City,
Pause.
second in the division. They will
Admit it.
tie the Patriot. They will tie the Patriots. I'm telling everybody right now. They will tie the Patriots for the wild card slot, but they will lose on the tiebreaker, leaving them out. Las
Wow, he
Vegas,
went there.
third. LA Chargers, fourth.
And he went there as well. So you think that the Raiders are going to have a winning season?
I said that the Raiders will have a better season than the Chargers. That's what I said.
But you earlier said that you thought the Chargers would be good. And Jim Harbaugh didn't
Or
expect that.
I was harping on the fact that their ceiling could be 10 wins, but I also saw a possibility where they can only win six. And I also stated that I did not like a lot of the pieces that they might have brought in order to make their offense a lot better. I think their offense, like I said, will retract. I think their defense will suffer because of it. And as a result, I think they're going to underperform.
So you're looking at what, like an 8-win team, a losing record?
I think to be honest with you, I could see probably 7-10 with the Chargers.
We are very far apart on this division. I mean, the Chiefs fans are going to come for you when they win the division for a
Come
10th
for me,
straight
Chiefs
year.
Kingdom. Come for me, Chiefs Kingdom. I don't care. Listen, like I said it best, until your offensive line proves me wrong, I will eat the crow then. But prove me wrong.
With guys like Creed Humphrey, who's the best center in the league, and Trey Smith at right guard, who's really good, they're going to have a good offensive line. Definitely not a great one because of all the question marks, but they will be good. Either way, I have the Chiefs winning a 10th straight AFC West division title. I think they can tie the Patriots by getting to an 8th straight AFC championship. I think they will. And I think
Okay.
they're good enough to get to the Super Bowl. They will not win the Super Bowl. I'm fully confident of that.
Okay.
We saw enough last year, not just in that game, but overall, we talked about that
Okay.
game.
Okay.
Denver Broncos,
hmm
Chargers, who will have a winning season and just missed the playoffs by like a game. Raiders, who will be bad but better.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
What is your final word of the day?
I'll keep this as short as I possibly can. So the MLS was talking recently about making changes to their season and when the season would occur. And let me just discuss a couple of pros and cons before whether I agree or not. So the pros of changing possibly to a European regular season schedule, which would be literally start of essentially late summer all the way until early spring or mid spring, sort of. The pros would be that the players won't be playing year round, especially when they have international play. And on top of that, they're only going to be limited to what, 8 months, 9 months. Whereas if you're playing a regular MLS schedule, you got to play the whole year because you don't know if you're going to get called up for the national team or you might get transferred out to essentially playing for a Euro team, whatever. You don't know. Now the cons. Now these is why I'll get to my last point, but they're not gonna if they change to a European format, they're gonna be competing with the NFL. They're gonna be competing with the NBA, the National Hockey League, and college sports. Listen, MLS, I love the MLS. I love soccer. But no way in chance are you guys competing with those other leagues. I am sorry. You guys can have games on a Saturday night. Messi could be playing for all I know. So if my Commanders are playing the Dallas Cowboys, I'm watching the Commanders playing the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not watching Messi. I love Messi, but this is how it is. And also, a lot of the teams that play in the Northern Hemisphere, they already whine and complain about somehow the weather isn't fair and whatnot. Well, have you noticed how harsh the winter is in Canada and in northern cities? You guys are going to play in what, 0 degree wind chills? Or is that what you guys want to do? I'm sorry, this is not England. It's just not. So another reason why it just wouldn't work. And then also, if the MLS thinks that fans are going to come out to watch these games, especially when the other leagues are running, no, it's just not. It's just not going to happen. Unless it was Messi and Ronaldo, sure, fine. But no, it's just not going to happen. So all to sum it up, no, I disagree with this. Period. The MLS should keep it the way it is. Keep the fact that they're a summer league, and all the attention's on them. When all the attention on the other leagues are done, keep the attention in the summer, please. That's my final word.
So it's funny. It's something you mentioned in there. I'm going to ultimately piggyback on, and it's something you've mentioned before as well. Cities that are building new stadiums build domes, build indoor stadiums. Not necessarily domes nowadays, but like the Vikings Stadium in Minneapolis that has the glass roof, retractable roofs like we have in Atlanta and some other places. So it's got to fit your city and the weather you have. You can't necessarily be SoFi Stadium in Inglewood and Los Angeles out there in Southern California. That won't work. But make it work for the weather you have, and AT&T Stadium in Arlington and Texas for the Dallas Cowboys. That's the other one, the retractable roof.
Right.
But let's do that, because then we don't have to worry about weather. And for baseball as well, I mean, let's eliminate weather from these sports, from these games, from being a problem, so that we're always playing the game when they're scheduled for, and that doesn't impact the gameplay itself. The only other thing I want to add is, hey guys, please go on our social media and follow us. If you enjoy our content, if you enjoyed this episode with Nelson and I, please go follow us on all of our social media pages. Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok.
Absolutely.
We're on there. Check us out. See what you think. Check out our other content. We've got other episodes out. We're going to keep putting more out for you guys. Comment. Give us feedback. Tell us what you like and don't like. Help Nelson and I provide you the best content we possibly can. That is our goal. We are here for you to provide you the best possible content. We want you to get involved in the conversation. Please do so. Please subscribe to our YouTube page and download our episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out. Listen to them. Watch us. We need all of that in order to be able to continue to give you the best possible content we can. We need your feedback, and we need your support. We need your follows. We need your likes. We need your subscriptions. We need your downloads. Go ahead, Nelson. You've got something in there.
Yeah, I wanted to throw something out there also for the whole audience. And Chris, you can kind of touch us up if you would like to, but we're excited too, because after this final divisional preview going forward, we're going to bring in some exciting new content as you know, the end of August comes up and September and onward. So we're definitely going to be excited to be more involved and bringing out more content daily if possible to you guys. So that way you guys can literally see all the fruits of our labors, but at the same token, you guys can also see all the inside information that you guys want to see regarding your favorite teams, your favorite sports, etc. And we can't wait to bring that to you. So please check us out when that time comes. And we're excited for all those major changes that are coming, because it's coming for you guys, and it's for you guys only.
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to have a lot to talk about, plenty to be able to react to in terms of news and games that we're watching. And Nelson and I are big-time sports junkies, and we know a lot of you are as well. So please jump in and talk to us and give us your feedback and be a part of this. But that is all that we have for today. We do want to thank everyone for tuning in and sticking with us throughout. For Nelson Jordan, I'm Chris Nelson. This has been The First and Final Word.